some might call BS on this one, but I assure you that it is, in fact, a true story. Anybody that knows me will attest to the fact that I have a wall full of backpacks in my man cave. In 2016, I decided I needed another one. I was looking at 3 major brands, and I settled on one. It worked out well for about a year and a half. But it wasn't until my buddy Jake killed a cow elk off the end of this ridge. Now, it shouldn't have been a tough hike out, but that pack crushed me. It just did not perform well with that kind of weight in it. Now, in full disclosure, that winter is when I met Aron. And Aron got me pointed in the direction of Kifaru. Rest of that winter and into the spring, I did a bunch of training hikes in preparation for an 8-day trip into the Frank Church. That pack performed flawlessly. And then that following fall, between myself and friends, I ended up packing out 5 animals. Well, the next few years, I've used that pack a bunch. And now I think I can give you a pretty fair assessment on it. That pack is going to be heavier than any pack you've ever owned. But when you need it, it's not going to let you down. Today, I use the 44 mag on elk hunts and overnight trips. And then most of the time, I'm using the Striker pack. That Striker pack is so versatile, it'll blow your mind. So if you're looking for a pack, don't do what I did. Go right to the top. Kifaru International. Check them out on their website. You won't be disappointed. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Hump Day, first Wednesday of the month, and that means the Empty Quiver. Welcome to the Stickbow Chronicles Empty Quiver, brought to you by Black Widow Bows. What's going on, Blake?
That was kind of gay.
Was it?
Yeah, Hump Day.
Well, thanks for calling me out, but I ain't editing it. You look grouchy anyways. When I looked over at the screen as I was saying that, I'm like, man, he looks grouchy.
I get a little grouchy sometimes. It's all right.
Well, it's yeah. Oh, good stuff. What were you gonna say? Now you're leaning in like you're gonna say something.
No, I'm drawing a blank here.
You're speechless. Hey, so we did a little Q&A with Aron, kind of a live Q&A thing. Really enjoyed the platform. Think it's a good idea. And just looking at fielding questions, so it was a good time. Aron was on top of his game like always.
In true form.
And yes, yeah, yep. And you're editing this one.
I know. I know. No, it was good though. We didn't do too many questions, but we kind of picked and chose.
Well, actually, like 2/3 of the way, didn't we go through a big rabbit hole? It was like really good discussion. Yeah, that was. I don't remember.
I can't remember either. It was.
We got pretty deep.
I think I even remember saying that was one of the best podcasts that we've ever done.
It was pretty deep.
I may or may not have been.
No, you were not. No, you were not.
I was not. Okay.
No, we actually, if you can't tell, we recorded this like 10 days earlier. Have not edited it yet, and we're doing the intro now. So we think it's good. How's that? We'll just go with, we think this is a good one. We think you should continue listening.
Yeah, I should have went back and kind of glossed over it, but no, I remember we went down a pretty deep rabbit hole there towards the end, and I remember thinking that it was really good stuff. So
unicorns were mentioned, rainbows.
No emus this time.
No emus.
Not this time.
No, good stuff though. Let's see, what do we got going on here? So we're dropping this in a couple days, and there's some things I got to mention. So Michigan Traditional Bow Hunters, that's Jim Eckhout, he's the president. they're doing a raffle. To those guys are really getting after it. Building that club to represent bow hunters and represent traditional bow hunters in the state. So I mean, this is not just like a kumbaya, let's get together and have chili. Although they might do that. This is serious. So really want to help Michigan guys keep moving this forward. They're doing a raffle. They have a limited number of tags for a Bear Mag A handle, one of those, the really cool camo handles that Bear just came out with. So the tickets are $20 a piece. There's a limited number of them. If and when you get drawn, they'll get the limbs that you want for it. So, and Safari Tough got in on it. They're giving away a case with it, and Drew over at Selway, they're giving a matching quiver, one of those Grayling replicas with the camo. So this is an awesome setup. $20 per ticket. Go to mitradbow.com, Michigan Tradbow, mitradbow.com, or reach out to Jim Eckout or visit their page on Facebook. But for $20, that's a heck of a setup, and you're helping a heck of a bunch of good dudes do some important work over there.
No, absolutely. Let me ask you this. Does the bow take force to draw?
Well, I'm not sure it has a curve. But yeah, we're testing it. We're looking at getting one over at the Rad Lab, and we're going to do some testing. And it may or may not include that draw force. But here at the Rad Lab, we don't do the curve, just the draw force, and it appears to have force that takes to draw.
We really do need to exploit that. No, but Jim's a great guy. He's a big supporter of the podcast, and make sure and go over and you said mitradbow.com.
Yep. You can go to our Facebook page, Michigan Traditional Facebook page, or just go to mitradbow.com. Not just Jim, all that crew. I love the guys over in Michigan, guys and gals. It is a hotbed of archery history there, so love to help those guys out.
Great hunters too.
Some of them. Doesn't Drew live over there?
Yeah, he's a hack.
All right, man. Let's get out of here. It's a pretty long episode, eh?
All right. Big
thanks to listeners and our supports. Can we call them support staff? Kifaru International. Or what?
Support system.
Yes. Yeah, our lifelines. Kifaru International, The Footed Shaft, Selway Archery, Backwoods Grind Coffee Company, and, of course, Black Widow Bows. That's all I got. You?
Oh, that's it. Let's get out of here.
Roger out.
There he is. He's a free man, too.
He's a free man.
It's the only clean shirt I had. Is it working?
Yep.
Yeah.
There, you have permission.
Working.
You got permission, Blake.
I have consent.
Now, change my shirt.
So, is it springtime there, buddy?
No. Did you not see earlier we're snowshoeing in 5 foot, 6 foot deep of snow?
Well, it could have melted.
Yeah, in a day. Negative.
When's American Bowman going to be thawed out?
It'll be another month, I bet.
In 4.
So, hey,
it was probably covered up.
Who's got some questions? Fire away. We tried to do this the other night. We had a bunch of deadbeats, all quiet and shit.
Coming back. Hold on.
Hang on just a second, Levi. I'll wait till.
I'm back. I don't want anybody making fun of my shirt. I ordered it. It's supposed to say Fat Man, and they screwed it up.
I thought it was are you trying to get one of your Burning Man t-shirts?
Yeah, it might be before my time. I didn't know what that meant.
I don't know. I don't know either, but I'm pretty sure it's a bunch of hippies doing weird shit.
Well, that's Colorado. You can't throw a hippie in Boulder without it landing on a Subaru here.
Ran out of beer, Joe. That's all I got left, buddy. Okay, so I guess we can go ahead and start. Levi asks, glue in iron wheels or screw in with gold tip kinetic Pierce Platinum?
The kinetic Pierce Platinum components suck really bad. So if you're going to run that system, I would definitely say upgrade to something different than what Gold Tip has out of the factory. And when I say suck, they're probably the worst components on the market.
Yeah, it's an aluminum half out with an aluminum rinky-dink collar.
It's literally like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and then covering that Band-Aid with another Band-Aid.
All right, who else we got? Longbow Dan says, I want to hear about Aron's grizzly setup. Sounds sweet.
The hunt. I got to pick between two different dudes. It's in October in Alaska, spot and stock when they're feeding on salmon. That's as much as I've got. What?
That's going to be intense. No, that's going to be awesome, man. So you're going to be, well, who's laughing? What are we talking about?
Me. I'm reading the comments.
Oh, so are you going to be stalking along salmon streams then?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, that's going to be a kick in the ass, man.
How do I read the? I'm missing out here. I can't see them.
You can, well, do you have your computer nearby?
I do, but then that'll suck up my internet, so never mind. What are they saying, damn it?
Randy says, what's the average velocity of an unladen swallow?
Randy Cooling?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
I don't.
My wheels are turning.
Okay.
Tell them if it's collapsing or not.
So, do you know how big of a river, or is it just streams or?
Man, I don't know. I honestly don't know anything at all. Came up because somebody asked something I hadn't killed that was my dream hunt or something like that, and I posted brown bear, and then I think 8 or 9 different outfitters got a hold of me. So I've narrowed it down to 2 now. So I'm trying to figure out between those 2.
Nice. What's that going to cost? Do you know?
I know what it's supposed to cost. I'm getting a little bit of a deal. I think it's 20-something thousand, I think, is normal price.
Yeah.
They wanted me to do a spring hunt, and I'm like, boys, I gotta make payments on this one. It's not like I can just pull that out of my ass. So
what's what just theoretically, you go on this hunt, what's your setup going to be?
Just what I've got, 575 grain arrow, and I'll shoot a iron will wide.
Yeah. Nice.
With my next impacts.
Are you going to exclusively shoot the wide from here on out, Aron?
Yeah, I think so. I say that I may set up another bow with those rampages and have the wides and like the Rocky Mountain 3 blades, be able to interchange them. But primarily, I've done so much shooting lately trying to figure out what tail bow I'm going to shoot with longer distances. Those X impacts, they do a lot better in the wind. I just never liked skinny components. So,
yeah, I'm still playing around with my Widow. I've only had it a couple of days. I think I'm going to shoot a 350 deep impact with the wide solids on the front, about 250, 275 up front.
Yeah, I got
what it's looking like.
You got what?
You're shooting 300 Spine X impacts. Is that right?
Yeah, with 300 up front. I've got them cut all the way down to the riser. I can't go any shorter, or I'll pop the freaking arrow off with the broadhead hitting my hand or the riser, one or the other.
300 grains up front. Damn.
Yeah.
I was gonna try and shoot the lighter weight of the 2 ferrules that he's got, but I'm gonna have to bump up to the heavier one. That lighter one, it's that damn 100 grain insert to get enough weight up front. Screw that on the back of it. It stiffens the damn arrow up quite a bit compared to just running like 250 or 275 right up on front, it seems like. So I'm going to have to go to that heavier ferrule. Have you noticed that if you run a lot of your weight in your components, you can run your arrow a little bit longer?
Yeah, I guys were asking me about like with the iron wheel Valkyrie's the same way, it's got a long shank. Or like if you run double hits and it basically doesn't, it's not quite as the same as cutting it down to the back of it. Because I've had guys try to tell me that, and I'm like, all right, well then cut another arrow down right at the back of it and see if it tunes the same, because it won't. The thing is I'm like, the tune is the tune when you're tuning like that iron wheel system or the Snyder system. It is what it is. I mean, you have to tune it for that system. Right. And so I'm like, well, guys, whether it tunes out the same or different, or it doesn't matter, you got to tune that specific system, or it'll, it won't, it's not equal across the board.
Yeah. So right now I've got, I think 280 up front, but I'm running the lightweight ferrule with 100 grain insert, and it's still tearing like a half-inch stiff. So I think by going to the heavier ferrule and running a little bit less weight in the insert, I think that'll get that half-inch tear out of it. But I could be wrong. But yeah, no, that's pretty much the same thing I've seen. Is it's not quite as drastic as cutting that much off your arrow. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What are you using for knocks in those deep impacts?
I've got it.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I'm trying those AAE IP knocks right now. I've used G knocks in the past with pretty good success, but I'm trying those AAE IP knocks.
What about you, Aaron?
Either the G knock or the Bonding F knock.
No problems. You don't see any problems with the back end of those deep impact splitting?
You're shooting the deep impact. Yeah, that's you.
I mean, I haven't shot them enough to really know yet, but no, as of right now, no. Haven't had any issues yet.
I've only broke one X impact. That was today at the 3D course. I skipped off the belly of a deer and broke probably 10 inches up from the front of the shaft. But I haven't broken any of the back of them yet. But I would say that, that's going to be just like rampages. That's usually the weaker point. You got to put like a top hat on them.
Let's see here. So you're going to stick with the border, Aaron?
I have no idea. I'm in a bit of a bow conundrum right now. Let me tell you. So I got the Lee, shoot it unbelievably well, but I shoot it 8 inches left. So I can't, dude, it's driving me crazy. Like I can't make it hit the dot, but it groups insane. And so I'm trying to get my head wrapped around that. And then I've got the Widow, the G10 Widow, which I'll have tomorrow. I think I let my buddy Matt Fugnes, I don't know if I pronounced it right. He borrowed it because he ordered one. He wanted to try one, so he ordered one. But he ordered a PMA, not a PSA, to get, shoot a 64-inch. I've got the Tempest with Uka Altai limbs. I've got a Tempest with Urbis limbs. And then Sid from Border sent me the, whatever they are, 9 border limbs. So I've got all these bows. I got to figure out which one I'm gonna shoot.
Joe Long says more info on the Bob Lee Shikari. How is it now? Well, we just kind of went over that. Shooting 8 inches left, but shooting great. Yeah, that drives me nuts. If I can't use my point for my left and right, it freaking screws with me.
Yeah, I messaged Rob today. I'm like, pro group's insane, but I gotta either change my grip or cut it past a little bit because it's my Carta, so it can take it, cut a little bit past center, and then maybe have to go to a 250 spine. I'm not sure because I shoot the bow really well, but the limbs fire pretty hard, so just tunes different or whatever.
Right.
So what is it cut to center now? I mean, is it cut to center or past center now?
I think it's 3/16 past center, or maybe might be an eighth past center, and I have it go 3/16.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain things that you can pick up. To me, over a short period of time with traditional archery. So, like, I've been lucky with different hunts I've gotten to go on and all that crap, and pick up a lot of tuning stuff. But there's things like this that somebody that's done this a lot longer may know right out of the gate. Oh, it's because of this. Well, I have guesses. Could be the way I'm gripping the bow, because the grip's a little bit different. As comfortable as it feels, it may be because of how the grip is, and it could be because those limbs fire so hard. By the time I shim it out to the left and get my brace height right, when I look down the arrow, because it's shimmed out left to tune, it's hitting left. So in my mind, and I don't know if this is right, if I cut it past center and then shoot a stiffer spined arrow, it would tune hitting directly down the arrow where I'm aiming, which it doesn't have anything to do with the bow. It is what it is. But like with those border limbs, now I just put it together today. They shot 197 with a 577 grain arrow at 58 pounds. It's the fastest limb I've seen. Now, it's got curls on it like a freaking elf shoe. Like, I'm afraid there's no putting it in the pad of the foot and, you're not going to unstring it that way. Like, you've got to have a stringer. It's got a little vibration, but I don't know what's going on with my dogs. It's got a little vibration, but it's fast. Those limbs in slow-mo are crazy. I mean, it literally looks like two elf shoes flipping and twitching back and forth for quite a while. So that speed comes with a price.
Yeah. How quiet is that?
It's not.
That's one thing I've noticed with that new Widow right off the bat, like the first few arrows out of it, is that thing is freaking dead in the hand and super, super quiet. And I don't know how much of that has to do with the carbon or just because I hadn't shot a Widow in a while, but it is super, super dead. I'm sure that G10 riser doesn't hurt anything either.
No, that Widow's super quiet. And the Lee's quiet too. The Tempest with the Urbis limbs and the Altai limbs is quiet, but the border limbs, it's pretty twangy. But when you're shooting that fast, I mean, you got to pay the piper somewhere.
Right.
How about lighted knocks? Are you shooting those anymore? Greg wanted to know what your favorite lighted knock was.
So this is weird. I was talking to Danny Klum about this. I have had unbelievable luck with Nocturnal. Danny has too, has as well. And I've had multiple people call me and tell me they suck. I don't know if I just got lucky because I bought a bunch at one time, but other than, blowing through an animal, blood gets in the knock. If you don't click it off real quick, it'll stay on, which if it's went through an animal, it's done its job and I don't really give a shit and I'll use it for a practice one later. But I haven't had any bad luck with Nocturnals. I've had great luck, but I've had people tell me they've had horrible luck with them.
Yeah, no, I've always had good luck with Nocturnals. Also, so when you're testing knock fit and stuff, those Nocturnals seem to fit a little bit looser than like a X-Knock, standard X-Knock. You just roll with it.
No, when I was shooting, I went to a Bonning F-Knock, which snaps on the same as the Nocturnal. The problem is everybody has their own, you need to use a glory hole. Well, it's not called the glory hole knock. It's called the glory knock. Or whatever. And so, for example, with the glory knock, everybody was saying use that. The thing is it snaps in the way that it snaps on shooting fingers, especially 3 under, it pops out of the groove and then it's resting on the top of your finger and you don't know when you dry fire your bow. The way that the glory knocks work, they are not called what I said originally. So anyhow, the Nocturnal is the best I've found as far as not dry firing your bow, and they're about twice as bright as the glory knock as well.
No, Greg said he loved fire knocks with the compound, but throat is too short for him with fingers, which I think is what you're getting at with the
There's a lot of things out right now that I just don't know that this might not be good. You don't want a shallow throat.
No.
You might. Oh.
There I go. Yeah, gotta be the adult. Gotta be the damn adult.
That's what I told Rob. I said the only reason Rob wanted to go live is because I've been drinking all day and he knew I needed to be on good behavior.
I just started.
Longbow Dan says, "What's the first hunts for all three of you?" So, are you talking this year or what?
I'm assuming
Ryan. I'm gonna call you Ryan because I'm gonna butcher your last name. Says, "What's target panic?"
I thought he was
Do you want to
joking.
answer that?
I thought he was joking. Now he's joking.
Okay.
Here I knee deep in bush beer cans where I haloed in. I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, hopefully he's joking.
I think he's joking.
Yeah. Dude, it is flat ripping out there.
Yeah. He said, getting after it, huh?
Oh, man. Lights are flickering.
Yeah, I said, Longbow Dan said, what's our first hunts this year? All three of us.
What about you, Blake? What do you got?
What's my first one?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you want to count pigs, my first one was, weeks ago probably. But, first one was Dad. I'm sure I'll probably hunt turkeys a time or two. Probably won't kill one. Probably shoot at a couple. And then first actual hunt will be just whitetails here. Only out-of-state hunt I have so far is eastern Colorado, mule deer, which should be pretty awesome. I'm really looking forward to that.
What about you, Aaron? What's the first thing you're going to head after?
Other than what I've already done, so I'm going to go shoot a turkey in the face on Wednesday. I'll be down there, probably hunt Oklahoma and Texas. And then Amy, my wife's coming down a few days after I get there. So that would be, if you count turkeys, it would be turkeys.
Can you really count turkeys?
I generally don't, because I get made fun of. My friends call me something that rhymes with Ray when I hunt turkeys. So I try not to count those. And then I may go spring bear hunting with Mr. Potato.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm made some phone calls trying to line up some transportation. And I emailed you, or I messaged you the other day, and you never got back to me. Knucklehead.
What'd you mess?
I gave you some dates, and I said, "Let me give me Dana's contact info, and I'll see if it works." And you never got back to me.
Oh, it happens. I'll give it to you tomorrow. I'm wearing shorts right now. You guys want to see how white my legs are?
Hell yeah! Yep.
It's not. Hey, look at that though. That's what happens from carrying a big fat ass around.
That's a tumor. It's a freaking tumor.
It has a butt crack.
What happens when you're fat? They get big.
Aaron Toby says, "Do you still wear your wife's thong for good luck when hunting?"
Only as a face shield when I go into the store. It's double layered. It's little.
He probably wears it more now. It's been such good luck. He wears it all the time.
Yeah. I sniff a lot. They're like, "What's going on?" You know, I'm walking. You know how a dog goes? That's what I'm doing all the time, wearing it. Who is that?
It's Toby.
South.
Oh, it's Toby.
Thanks, Toby. Thanks for bringing the conversation up to a maturity level.
Wait, I gotta talk. So Toby and his brother come in, and so now keep in mind, I've never met Toby's wife or his brother's wife. But Anders calls me. He's like, "Dude, there's two rednecks in here with smoking hot wives." And I'm like, "So?" He's like, "It's Toby and somebody else." I'm like, "Oh, from Black Widow?" He's like, they're like way out of their league here. It's like, oh, no shit. I was on top of a mountain when they came in. I was laughing.
Oh, that's funny.
You know, I had a buddy was texting me the other day and said something about his wife, and he said, "I married up." And I said, "You know what? I don't hang around with anybody that doesn't marry up, because pretty much all my friends are knuckleheads, And if they're not smart enough to marry up, I don't want to hang around with them.
Oh yeah, that's no lie right there.
So yeah,
Are you doing high country deer this year, Aaron?
Man, so if you guys want to hear, we had to figure this out earlier today. So we're going on a caribou hunt with Bill in August, and then we get back, we're putting in for high country mule deer. If we draw that, we're going to go on the high country hunt. We're going to come back and hunt elk, and then I go on a mountain goat hunt and a brown bear hunt, and then I come back from that. I do mule deer in South Dakota, and then I do whitetail in Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. And then I've got a rifle mule deer hunt. Well, I can shoot it with a gun. It just depends. It's a private land only tag that I'm going to try and do it with a bow. It just depends. Mule deer hunt. And then, and I can't remember all the hunts we have planned, but it's a lot. But so yes, to answer your question, if we draw, we'll do high country mule deer.
Yeah, I'm going to miss it this year. I'm going to have to get back in the high country the next year.
Is that
riding around in the pickup in the Eastern Plains will be a nice hiatus, though.
Is that that caribou hunt? Is that with Bill from Iron Will?
Yeah, Bill with Iron Will.
Cool.
Me and Frank the Tank are going.
Oh yeah, whereabouts? What herd?
Somewhere in Alaska. That's the most info I have. I try to wing everything in my life, obviously. So.
No, they had good luck up there last year. Had real good luck.
I've killed a couple of species of caribou already, just not with the recurve. So it'd be cool if I could get a brown bear and a caribou this year with the recurve.
That'd be badass. I want to make it up there with Bill. I've been talking to him about it. It's just going to be a logistics thing for me to be able to go, but that's definitely on the short list, is to go up there for caribou.
Have you ever killed a mountain caribou, Aaron?
Yeah, I did. It's funny. Killed a 385-inch mountain caribou, and Clay did nothing but tell me how stupid I was for shooting it, with him. And we talked about this. I'm not a great, trophy hunter, which obviously everybody knows. Occasionally I shoot something real big, but I just look for age. If it's, 4.5, on a mule deer, mountain goat, I'm looking for 5 or 6 years old. And on a caribou, not that I know how to judge them, I just knew it was over 360, so I shot it. Everybody, it's a good topic, but you get certain people in the industry that give you crap if you shoot a spike as a newcomer, or if you get to hunt as much as I do, if you're not shooting, name it, whatever, bigger animals than or older animals or whatever that I'm shooting. But, for me, it's hard because it's like I told the dude that on the brown bear hunt, I'm like, look, dude, I'm not looking for a 9.5, 10-foot bear. If it's 8 foot, 6 years old, your guide will have to hold me down from not killing it. And he better be a big guide because I can handle myself, because you're not going to talk me out of shooting an 8-foot plus brown bear, which I get. Some people would wait. Man, it's just about the adventure for me. It's if you've checked all the boxes on the hunt, a big old deer is obviously a bonus, but I just try to shoot a 4-year-old, deer or whatever. An elk, like last year, I tried to trophy hunt elk last year, and I don't know how many different 3- and 4-year-old bulls I passed up. And you know what I walked home with? Jack shit. And I would have been smarter to shoot one because I really like to eat elk meat. So I guess I look at it differently than some people on the hunt.
I think that's actually something good to talk about, because I think around here I get kind of labeled snooty or whatever for passing up deer. But I mean, whenever I'm going on a hunt, like a hunt out of state or a high country hunt or whatever it is, like, man, I'm just there to have a good time. Like if I kill something big, that's great. But man, I'm just, if I was to go on a caribou hunt, I'm not going to be trophy hunting caribou. I'm going to take whatever gets handed to me. I just think it's an interesting topic because it's obviously very situational.
So, Aaron, have you ever passed anything up that was, right there on quality, but it was just, it was like, you know what? It's just, it didn't feel right. It didn't check the boxes.
Man, last year I don't know how many elk that were checking a lot of my boxes, other than they weren't bigger than the first elk I shot. The only elk I shot with a recurve. Oudad, I passed up a bunch of those. Mule deer, I passed up a bunch of those. But man, when you, like with mule deer, I want something 4 years old. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And in 2019, for example, I think we hunted 11 days. I missed a deer that ended up scoring 203. They killed it like 90 miles away in a rifle season a month later or 2 months later. I hunted 11 days. I came back in. I hunted 5 more. And on the 5th day, I shot a 3-year-old 120-inch mule deer. And that's a good kind of explanation. I got more out of that $50 tag than any human could possibly get. Like, I got multiple stocks. I missed a couple big mule deer. I ended up shooting that one at 9 or 12 yards, or, really, really close. And was it the deer that I was hoping for in the beginning? No, but was it the deer I was super happy with when I shot it? Man, I was ecstatic, because came back in late season, everything's dead, not that many deer up high. I was solo, snowed quite a bit after. It was just I was 11 miles in when I killed it solo. Thank God Frank the Tank came and helped me pack it out, because it even though I probably could have made it, I didn't really want to. It snowed when I shot it, right? So I thought, what the problem was? I talked to freaking Randy Cooling and my wife too long on the side of the mountain after I killed it, just chilling. Well, I talked my way right into a snowstorm. I could see it coming, and I'm like, it's probably not gonna, it'll pass. Yeah, it passed right over the top of me. So, and then I tell Frank, little things, right? Hey, Frank, I'm going to meet you just past the creek. He knew right where it's at. Well, I didn't really ever camp by the creek, and it seemed flat as we're walking by it. Man, there wasn't a flat spot on it. So I passed the creek, and I'm getting closer and closer to the truck. As I say that, I've cut the distance from 11 to 9 miles, so I'm still a long ways away. Finally find flat ground, and like an idiot, I didn't put my rain gear on. I am soaked. I get the tent up, dive inside, and I start, and I cook 2 top ramens and tuna, and I get a big meal going. I eat that, then I go outside, go find all the bristlecomb in the world I could to build a bonfire, and it's putting it down. Like, it's snowing, but it was the best adventure you could ask for. The hunt was just amazing.
Yeah, not to all kumbaya and it's about the adventure and blah, blah, blah. But it is a lot of times. It really is. There's a lot more to the story than, size of the animal or whatever.
Absolutely,
well,
man.
Let's take a poll.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, just you guys and who's listening in. I personally would rather hear about a dude that goes in with a recurve or a longbow, first, second, or third, fairly new into elk hunting, backpacks in and shoots a cow, than I would with some dude shooting a 350 bull on the hill ranch. Nothing wrong with either one. They both have a story to tell, but there's a hell of a lot more of a story to tell for that poor bastard shooting a longbow, going in and shooting a cow on its own 3 miles in on a backpack hunt. There's nothing wrong with either one. I just would rather hear the story about that guy, because his story's in my opinion, a lot better.
If you can if you can really stay grounded, like, and just hunt for yourself, right? So if you just backpacked in and shot a doe, and it can be like the greatest hunt of your life, it'd be awesome. Like, last year I backpacked in and my kid with my boy, and we camped on some turkeys, and get up in the morning and we call his turkey in, and he shoots his turkey. That was like level 11 for me.
Level 9.
Yeah. It was just absolutely awesome. Because like you said, it checked all your boxes. I got, my kid with me, you backpacked in, you listen to the birds gobbling on the roost all night long. As opposed to somebody who's worried about what other people think. And, not just your friends, but you want to put it on Instagram. You want the fame and all that. And it just sucks the joy out of it. You could shoot a doe and just have a blast. And I just wish more people could appreciate that.
It's funny. Alex Nestor, my buddy in Eastern Colorado, he's an outfitter, right? We were on Gladiators Unleashed the other night, and he oh, Rob, are you locked up or are you just staying stagnant?
No, I was reading comments.
He was talking about it, just that, you know, he's hunted with me enough. So I'm going to sound, I'm sure somebody's going to talk crap about this, but go with me here before you call me arrogant or whatever, because he's the one that said it. But, you know, I can judge animals. I can shoot real good. I'm super fit. I know animal behavior. I know field craft. Okay, so why don't I shoot insanely large shit all the time? I don't care. And he was like, look, at first I just thought you were saying that. He's like, you truly don't care. And I'm like, well, I care to a point. You know, I try to shoot a 4-year-old deer, but the bottom line is some people have it in their DNA to hold out forever until they shoot this. You know, I don't have that in my DNA. If it checks a few boxes and I'm having a good time, it's going to die, or at least it's going to get stalked on. And people need to remember, it's not what people think on, you know, obviously I don't care because, you know, I do what I do, and I've done it long enough to where if people want to give me crap, I don't care. Don't worry about, you know, what they think is important online, because social media is basically the highlights of everything. Nobody sees the downtime. If a doe, a spike, a forked horn, if that turns your crank, that's what you need to do. I mean, at the end of the day, right, when you're keeling over at 85 years old or whatever, are you going to look back and think, man, I wish I had more likes on Instagram? Or are you going to look back and be like, man, I had a lot of awesome adventures? Worry about the adventures and what makes you happy, not the Becker Woods online.
Yeah, no, I agree.
What? I had
to go through some comments.
Hang on one second. So I had a guy that I hunted with 10, 12 years ago. His name was Dan. Big, tall guy. Freaking puts boots all over the mountains. Him and I hunted really good together. I enjoyed getting after it with him. I mean, he was hardcore. He was all about trophies, and it was cool. You know, he wasn't shooting anything unless it was a 30-inch buck. You know, he wasn't shooting anything under a 320 bull. We hunted together for like 5 years, and that was just that was just him. And I was the polar opposite, and we just parted ways. I mean, we're still buddies, but it was just different in what we were looking to get out of it. So I think it just speaks to what you're talking about, Aaron.
Yeah, I think, well, Rob, you and I hunting, obviously, I think what we want out of the hunt is exactly the same. I just run around spastic and you're more not. But I think what we want out of the hunt is the same thing. It's just our tactics are a little different. You know what I mean? But I think the like, man, I don't want to talk forever about this. Don't worry about what people on social media think, and never be embarrassed to post an animal. You know, if you post one and somebody gives you crap, you know, as a joking friend, you know, I get it, but the reality is you're out, it's your tag. You shoot what you want to shoot, and don't worry, you know, screw everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you'd just be a lot happier.
Even if you're a professional grouse hunter.
That's the participation award. I've got lots of those.
All right, so let's go through some comments.
I'm shocked by Greg's comment.
Hang on, I'm up here a little ways. Levi says, might be going to Texas soon for work. Any relatively affordable hunts I could get into while I'm down there? Yeah, you just have to message me, dude. I don't know what area you're going to be in or anything like that, but a pig hunt, depending on where you're at, can be pretty cheap. Grant Rom, I'm on the 5-year plan for brown bear. Don't think I have the balls to do it with a stick.
Pussy.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Grant.
That's what you told me.
I'll tell you what, Grant. I've seen a few bears die up there, and as a guide, I knew I knew they were going down hard with an arrow. Once the trigger was pulled, that's poking them in the eye. Then you had a fight. So you would be amazed. I enjoyed guiding bow hunters. They just didn't have the fight.
Blaine Swanson says, I'd rather hear about a guy shooting a doe on public land than a guy who shoots a giant buck on private property.
What if I shoot mediocre bucks on private property? Is that okay?
I think that's painting with a pretty broad brush, because, I mean, I bet a lot of money that I could kill a doe on public land before just about anybody kills a big buck on my private. But, go ahead, Aaron.
Just because it's Blaine and we're friends. Blaine, your opinion is very, if you had a pie, right? Your vision, what you're talking about is the size of a sliver of the pie, because you've only hunted in northern Wisconsin for the most part. Not downplaying that at all, but there's a lot of states, there's not a lot of public land, for one. And two, I can tell you, like right now, shooting a large buck in Alabama on private land is much, much more difficult than shooting, let's say, a public land mule deer. You can walk down a road and shoot a public land mule deer. It's a matter of perspective, and for me, of where you're at. And I'm not giving you shit, Blaine. I'm just saying my eyes were opened a lot wider in the last 10 years of hunting different, areas, like, for example, well, and Blaine, you're in Texas, but where you're at in Texas, for example, is significantly different than where I'm at up north. The deer wise or whatever, as far as that goes, like, if you hear a story shooting a doe on public land in northern Wisconsin, a lot of that story is going to how many days you sat of not seeing anything. And I'm not defending one or the other. I'm just saying that some places private land is really a lot more difficult than public, depending upon where you're at. And I don't know if you guys would agree with that or not, but like in the case of Rob, where you're at, it sucks no matter where you're at.
Yeah. And I mean, there was sits, I hunted some public land in Oklahoma this year. And I mean, there was a couple sits that I saw more than 10 deer, and that's no baiting, no nothing. And there's just it's just different wherever you go. Where Rob goes, he might see 2 deer in 2 weeks on public land. And then there's other places that the population's just higher. So if we're just talking about killing a deer, I can kill a deer on public land just as quick as I can kill a deer on private land. It's all different. It's very situational where you're at or whatever. I hate to have that debate over and over again, but it usually,
you talk about, you talk about checking the boxes. Probably 10 years ago, and as hard as it is hunting whitetails around here with a bow, I cut some tracks, some doe tracks, in fresh snow, and I just climbed up. I climbed up the hill, took a knee, because I was like, man, it's Thanksgiving Day. A buck is going to be on these. And I waited 5 minutes, and here comes this buck, just wild-eyed. He was a little basket rack, wild-eyed, big thick neck, and he was just stupid. And I didn't even have the heart to shoot him. You talk about checking the boxes. It was like, I stopped him. I whistled. He looked at me. We're less than 10 yards away. It's like super close, and it was like, boo. I just felt bad, like knucklehead. Just didn't check the boxes.
The V is a powerful thing at a young age.
Oh, buddy. It was pathetic. Now, had he been, a pickle, I might have had a different, it might have had a different outcome.
Well, no. And I've hunted up where Blaine is. It's not for me. I'm not into that much pain and anguish for a doe. I'll be the first to admit it. I've hunted in northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota a lot. And, it's not for me. I don't want to go freeze to death to shoot a doe. And it's so choked up in thick timber and swampland in the UP in different spots. It's not like you're setting up on a cut cornfield. You're in this horrific freaking dark timber of the north, and nothing wrong with that. I think, Blaine, your opinion would change if you got out of that area maybe a little bit and got, and as time goes on, Blaine, you're still young. You got a lot of hunting ahead of you. I just know things that I thought I knew when I was younger. As I gotten older and experienced a little bit more, like I just shoot, like, again, shooting a doe in Alabama is a challenge. Like they are cracked out like crazy. And I'm not justifying one or the other. It's just, it's different wherever you go.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'll use the example. I mean, I'm hunting private land, Eastern Colorado this year, which is, it's known for being a really great place to hunt deer. And, I killed that buck 2 years ago, public land, backpacked in and all that. And it would take a really big buck something pretty cool to happen in Eastern Colorado to top that deer, that first high country deer I shot. And that's a 130-inch deer or something like that. So it's all situational, but I like hunting public land and doing DIY stuff just as much as the next guy. But it's still pretty hard on private land in a lot of places. Not all private land's created equal, I think, is the main thing to get across. But
this week's episode, when I was talking to Steve Stively, we were talking, like, in the Northeast, they talk about, it's not so much the antler size. They talk about field dressed weight, what it weigh. Everybody says, like that buck dressed out at. And he was talking about some monster. I forget what the size. Well, Michael Arnett sent me a article. Like, apparently his grandfather, this is amazing. His grandfather in 1977 killed a deer, a whitetail buck that field dressed on a government scale, 431 pounds.
Good Lord, that's a bird of mule deer.
Frick. Yeah, they said that they estimated the live weight at 540 pounds. Can you freaking imagine that? I mean,
it was Matt Annett.
Oh, my bad. No, thanks for clearing that up. Seriously.
Yeah, no.
Oh, good. My bad.
Is the guy that sent it in?
Yeah.
I'm Matt Annett, not Michael Arnett.
Gotcha.
It's very similar, because I thought it was Michael whenever I first saw it too, but it's
Can you? And now you got to think about your arrow setup, right? Because I always bust on people like, "What are you shooting a whitetail? Chill out." Well, now you're shooting a 540-pound whitetail. You might want to have your crap together.
Yeah, it's an elk.
One of those mule deer I shot in Alberta was pushing 400, and it didn't look normal. I mean, it looked like a cow elk, so I can't imagine 540.
Well, I was pretty amazed at how big some of like the mule deer in Colorado actually are. Like, it's hard to tell here, but like that's a North Texas whitetail, which are not like small bodied Texas deer. They're bigger bodied deer. And then that's a Colorado mule deer. There's freaking it was kind of eye opening, I guess, to me the first time I walked up on a mule deer, how big bodied they actually are.
But those Texas deer are usually corn fed, ain't they?
Oh, you bet.
They are where I'm at.
Same way as they are in Iowa, or Illinois, or Kansas, or Eastern Colorado, or anywhere else.
Oh, that's funny. Getting fired up for cranking it.
Yeah, tonight ain't the night to crank it, Bubba. I'm telling you.
Some turkeys I'm about to go shoot, I guarantee you we're going to have some corn in them.
Let me see here. Let's read through real quick. Ty Deepung says, Aaron, that hunting stalking with an azimuth info is real cool. Next level. I'm about to start practicing land nav a lot more. Those type of practical applications make land nav way more interesting also.
That was a video I did on YouTube.
Yeah, no, that's something I'm going to start using as well, because I've been lost as a mofo.
Well,
stalk a time or two.
I started too late. I'm going to get my boy and his kid and get him out next year and do some land nav, UTM, teach him how to do UTM grids and stuff. It's fun and it's great to brush up on.
No, that's something I need to get better at, because I've always hunted in my backyard, so I've never needed any of that crap. So it's something, which in the high country, I've never had an issue in the high country much, I guess, unless, if I was to get fogged in or something like that, it would be an issue, but it's pretty easy to, I guess you call it terrain association, Aaron. it's pretty easy to terrain associate when you're up above tree line, but like down in the timber or something like that, if I'd be screwed.
I was just saying, in thick, like choked up dog hair timber for elk, that's the one where, you know, I've had guys tell me they don't need a GPS, but I'd like to go hunt all day with them and have them walk back to a brown freaking shelter the size of a coffin and walk right back to it without either a GPS or something, unless there's a major handrail you can walk down to hit it. You know, when you're in timber, that's when you get into trouble, is it's pretty hard to find.
And fog. Yeah.
I can actually think of a time here. There's this particular place I hunt. There's these really deep canyons, and it's got a really thick canopy, and it gets dark down in there, and it gets dark. Like you can't see anything around you, and you've got canyon walls all the way around you. And I got down in there one night, and I had deer all around me at dark. So I waited a while before I got down, and I got lost. And like, I wasn't 200 yards from the pickup, and I feel like I've got about as good a sense of direction as anybody. And it didn't take very long for me to get flipped around and not know which way I needed to walk. And I guess that's a good example of, you know, it would have been handy for me to have a compass or whatever in a situation like that. And that's just in my backyard. And I've been hunting there for years and years and years. And I got turned around.
I got lost we were up on the backside of that peak where we were all hunting in Texas, and I wasn't lost. I knew exactly where I was at, but I couldn't find the truck with Barklow, and we were trying to run back to the truck to drive around. Anyway, we walked for like 15 minutes, and I'm like, I have no idea where the truck is, because I thought now, and I had to call Chad, and I'm like, Chad, drive the Tacoma up, come pick us up. He's like, oh, okay, what's going on? And I said, I can't find the truck. I have no idea where it's. I don't have time to look for it. He's like, are you close to it? I'm like, we could be 150 yards from it. I have no idea. I can't find it, dude. Come get us. Like, I have no idea. Like, and he's like, Barklow's cool. He's like, yeah, we all lost it. And I'm like, you know, and up there, I mean, it was just a matter of, by the time what it was when we were following a drainage down, you know, I didn't remember when we took off like a bat out of hell, West Park the truck. We went over one little hump and then followed a drainage up. Well, when I'm going down the drainage, I didn't remember to go over the little hump. So we were probably 100 yards from the truck, and I had no idea. I couldn't find it. The wind ended up swirling when we were 70 yards from the sheep, and they blew out anyway. But
yeah, no, that shooting an azimuth thing is something I'm definitely going to start using pretty religiously. That's
you know, when I started down in the salmon country, it was all, you know, it's big and it's very defined. You're on a ridge, you know it, you know, and you can see a long ways. And it was just, you know, it was pretty easy. When I moved to North Idaho, it was like, you got to be kidding me. And you would walk, you know, you get a sense of direction. You mentioned a sense of direction. You're walking down a ridge. You don't realize you've just got onto a finger ridge. And I'll tell you, that is what gets people. You're walking in a direction, and all of a sudden, you're losing elevation, and you're looking off to your right, and you're like, what's that ridge? You know, like, and you're lost. Well, that ridge is what you're supposed to be on. You just got off on a finger. That's not easy.
Avery sent me into tree stands in the North Idaho jungle where he's like, you know, he tells me ahead of, you know, and if you've been in the mountains a lot, when somebody says there's a pile of false finger ridges, immediately I'm like, well, I won't say the F word, but I'm like, oh, this is going to be an adventure, you know, finding it, because when you have bald finger ridges, it's no problem. You can see them. When you have timbered finger ridges, you can't see how far the other ridge is. And as pronounced as that finger ridge may be, if it was bald, it's not as pronounced with old growth timber. Yeah. And, you know, wandering around like Captain Simplejack looking for a freaking tree stand, there could be 7 finger ridges 150 yards apart, or false finger ridges, whatever you want to call them. And you're like, and you're looking at the GPS and you're 150 yards from the tree stand, and you're like, huh, I'm glad something's pointing to this, because I'm certainly not walking right to it. And that's where guys are like, I have a great sense of direction. Well, if you've never been there, it doesn't mean shit, because you know, if you haven't found it, your sense of direction doesn't matter. Yeah,
and you feel like you're walking straight. You feel like you are walking straight down this ridge, and then suddenly you're like, man, I'm losing elevation fast. Well, yeah, it's just it's
you talk about like land navigation or GPSs or anything. I think what generally happens is people get very comfortable with where they hunt and that certain terrain. And when you throw them, and maybe there's just special people out there I've never met. Clay Lancaster is a guy that has a sense of direction like I've never even seen, like a bear. The problem is when he hasn't been somewhere, the sense of direction is out the window if you're trying to find an exact point. And that's where land nav, terrain association, and actually using a GPS and a map come in handy.
Yeah. Yeah. You use all those terms, the handrails and all that. When I started out down the Frank Church, I knew, like, man, I'm not going to cross this creek. Right. And I should hit this trail. And then there's another ridge over here that runs this trail. I was like, I had corral. I just figured I was corralled in, like, worst case scenario, I'm going to walk west until I hit this, or I'm going to walk, north until I hit this. And
well, man, as you're talking about that, as people are listening in, and as an example, when I got Giardia once, I've got Giardia more than once, but I had to call my wife and tell her to come get me because I literally thought I was going to die. Like I hadn't eaten in 5 days. And so because of land navigation, manual land nav and a GPS, but mostly manual land nav, I can look at the map and figure out exactly where I'm at. I can look at 2 handrails or a draw I'm going to go down and pretty much pinpoint the exact spot of where I'm going to hit a road where there's no trail or anything else because I had to have my wife come get me because I thought I was going to die. Well, I can call her on the cell phone. She has a map. I had her get the map out and I had her follow it with her finger up the map. And then I explained to her and she was able to drive pretty much right to me and get me. Sense of direction and things like that don't really come into play because it doesn't matter if you know where you are, if you're trying to tell someone else to come get you. And that's where, again, the land nav and the GPS and having them both, kind of mesh together come into play. And I've had people say, you just don't need a GPS if you're a good woodsman. I don't buy that because there's multiple reasons to have a GPS on you, even if you don't use it that often, mostly to save someone's life or to keep from, if you've got an animal down, to give the grid coordinates to someone else to come in and help you. There's many different reasons to know how to use a GPS and manually land nav.
Jake and I years ago we were down in the North Fork of the Coeur d'Alene during a late muzzleloader hunt, and we were just it was a simple little hike. He's gonna take this finger ridge. We're starting from the bottom. Left the truck. I think maybe I dropped him off and I drove a little further up the road, and we're going to walk up opposing finger ridges and meet on the main ridge. It ends up being a whiteout. It's just a snow squall. It didn't last all day. Total whiteout. And I just kept walking, and it shouldn't have been that far. And we had radios, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going on. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Finally, what should have been a 45-minute walk is into a couple hours now. And I said, dude, give me your grid coordinates. And this is early frickin' GPS. He gave them to me. I punched them in. I looked at mine, and I said, no way. There's no frickin' way. I didn't believe it. I ended up walking it. And when I got to him, he should have been on my left. I walked into him on my right. And it was like... like you have a gyroscope in your head. It was the craziest thing. I told him, I'm like, I'm done for the day. I'm walking behind you. I couldn't get my bearings after that. I was totally jacked. That was crazy.
So I think one of the reasons, and again, who you are today is a compilation of, your past history of screw ups and failures and successes. As a kid at 17, my buddy Justin and I driving down the road in Oregon, hunting blacktail, snowstorm, and in Oregon, it's like perfect hypothermia. And we're in Carhartts and, cotton hoodies, the norm for back then. Big blacktail comes across the road, throw the truck, and we're kids, right? Throw the truck in the park. We take off. Hour and a half later, we're lost, cotton pants and hoodies soaked. I mean, we're going to die. And that's not an exaggeration. We're in trouble. And, you don't bring water as a kid. You don't know what the hell you're doing. We ended up finding someone's basically log cabin house that was unlocked. I'm sure we were breaking the law, but we got in there, built a fire. We have no map, no GPS, no idea which ways. I mean, I couldn't have walked anywhere. I could, like, with uncertainty, the truck's that way. Yeah, the truck's that. I have no idea where the truck is. We end up hitting a logging road, hit a logging truck that's coming out full of logs. We tell him what's up. Of course, it's an old logging redneck. He's making fun of us, dumb kids, whatever. And we're like, yeah, okay, where's our truck? And he's like, we're so lost. We're 5 miles from our truck by the time, and there's cell phones back then, right? There's no help coming. So we're like, okay, well, and the guy's like, if you go up this logging road, you take your first right, and you cut on this logging road. And I'm like, the way the day is gone, we should write this shit down, right? We're going to forget what this guy's saying. 2:30 in the morning, we get back to the truck. We're 17 years old, and I have many stories like that. So as I got older, yeah, I had a lot of things in my back of my mind of saying, yep, I've almost died several times. I'm not going to push it. I think I better start, learning how to navigate and learn how to GPS. And the thing is if you're someone that's hunted a specific area or whatever, you've got comfortable with it, you come complacent. For example, like if Rob, you and Blake came and hunted elk with us, is it different than where you are? I have no idea. But the thing is, we take off on a trail 2 miles in, we cut off the trail 2 miles in, we go to about a mile off the trail, and we're in timber. And if you're used to that area, tons of handrails, catching features. If you're not used to that area, everything looks so much the same. Like, I've walked to the same tree 3 different times because my tree stand was there, except my tree stand wasn't there because there's a draw 300 yards over from where my tree stand is that looks identical. And I went to the wrong tree because it's almost blueprinted exactly the same. And I've been there. So finally, I'm like, I got to mark this shit on my GPS. Like obviously, I'm not capable of finding it. It's just where you're used to. I mean, you know what I mean? What you get used to and what you're not used to. Anytime you go into a new area, I'm like, guys, mark the truck, mark your tent, like mark everything on your GPS. Because when the rubber meets the road, and if you're not with somebody, you're trying to get back, the chances of you finding it aren't great without some help.
No, I think that's a good point. And I'm probably overconfident in my sense of direction sometimes, and I don't mark things as much as I should. And it hadn't got me in a bind yet. But since I got actually Travis Stiles brings it up here, says, I think I'm going to invest in one of those Garmin watches. Man, they're pretty slick for whether it's marking tree stands, marking cameras, whatever. It makes it super simple, super easy. You don't have to pull anything out of your pocket. That's been a really good buy for me personally because I'm too lazy to pull my GPS out of my pack and mark stuff sometimes. So if I can just mark it real quick on my watch, it makes it really simple.
Dude, like a prime example, I'm with the Gritty Gunman and we're trying to find the tent. And I've hunted this place a million times. We hit a full out blizzard, right? And we're walking. I'm too stupid. I didn't put my rain gear on. And we get to a certain point because we come out of the tree line. When you come out of the tree line, there's one patch of bristlecomb. It's the only one there. In the tent is, anyway, I couldn't see the bristlecomb. So we're walking and the wind is cranking. And I look back, I'm like, do you have your GPS? And he's like, what? I mean, it's literally like a movie type of it's putting it down. And I'm like, GPS, dude, do you have it? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, pull it out. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I have no idea where we are, dude. I was like, we're within 300 yards of the tent. It was 28 yards from us.
Wow.
And I had no, like my sense of direction got me close, but it didn't matter. I couldn't see it because it was so much snow. And he turns it on and he's like, I think something's wrong with my GPS.
It says we're here.
And he's like, it says it's 28 yards right there. And I'm like, well, it probably is. And it was just below us, but I couldn't see the tent. And an example, if I was solo, now I had it marked on my GPS. I just didn't want to pull my pack off. He keeps his in his pocket. If I didn't have a GPS at all, who knows how long John Pinch and I on a mountain goat hunt on Mount Baker in Washington hit a full on no snow fog, right? fog comes in. We didn't mark anything. And so if you can imagine, there's these sandbars up at Tree Line on Baker, right where the glaciers are. Our tent's on a sandbar. The depressing thing was when we finally find it at 11:30 at night, I see my guy outlines reflecting. I had walked by that thing 9 times by the tracks, tracking it the next morning. He and I both had tracks all around in the sand, and we couldn't see that thing through the fog. If I would have marked it, we would have walked right to it. And I was a dummy and I didn't mark it. So again, that collective of bad experiences definitely makes you better in the future, because unfortunately, you don't really know how hot the stove is until you touch it, and then you know not to touch it. Well, I've tested how hot that stove was several times, and so now I try not to screw up too often.
I'll tell you what, fog really intimidates me. I get claustrophobic. You get into that real thick fog and instantly pretty much lose sense of direction. Yeah.
So actually, as we're talking, what is the worst the three of us have been like totally lost at any age? Because my funny ones are when I was really young. So starting with you, Rob, what's the most effed up you've been where you couldn't tell south from north, east from west, had no idea?
Jake and I we decide we're going to hunt down this ridge, and we're going to put this big hunt on, and we're going to hunt down this ridge in a day. We're going to hunt down it. We're going to side hill this major drainage. And then at the end of the day, we're going to come up and circle around and hit this high ridge. And it rains that day. Again, you know what it's like up here. And we're side hilling all effing day in that bare grass and falling and climbing over logs. I mean, exhausted by 4:00 in the afternoon. I found a smoking deadhead, and I just left it. I mean, it was a miserable day. And finally, we cannot get to this major drainage. So we're going to hit this major drainage, and we're going to cut up. Literally, I mean, I can walk, Jake can walk. At 4:00 in the afternoon, we're like, man, you got to freaking pull the pin on this. We got to just start climbing up. We're not going to make it. We start climbing up, and we cannot figure out where we're at. We walked a complete effing circle. It took us hours to realize. We came back up on the same ridge that we started down on. It was mind numbing. That's one of the top 3 for me.
So Blake, lost in your high fence areas in Texas?
I just walk until I hit a fence, and then I walk until I hit another fence, and eventually I'm going to find the gate.
I couldn't find the gate. That's a classic.
Meters to go off.
No, I mean the most nervous I ever was that night I was talking about earlier, and I mean it wasn't bad conditions or anything like that, but down in that canyon you get zero service. It's dark. You can't see anything. You can't see ridge tops. I mean it took me, I don't hunt out west enough, or I haven't hunted out west enough to really have a horror story in the mountains or in a sketchy situation. But I mean, I was lost on a 150-acre piece of property for like an hour before I got my sense of direction to get out of there. And I mean to make a point, that shows you how easy it is whenever you don't have the tools you need. And that's really the only time where I've ever got lost and wasn't sure what was fixing to happen. But no, yeah, I don't have any cool stories. I mean, what hunting what are you cracking up about?
Make me write the time down. You could have just waited for a feeder to go off. You could have heard it.
You know what? Yeah, well, I forget your bait barrels don't make noise, do they?
I had to say it. I'm dying over here.
I tell you what, though, it's as we're making jokes, I totally off the subject. I believe multiple people that came down to the Davis Lake Barklow dude, he's like, this is the most legit sheep hunt I've ever been on. And he's been on multiple Dall sheep hunts.
Really?
And it's just an eye opener for people, and when meaning actually putting the animal on the ground. We were doing like 9, 10, 12 mile days. Like, that long day you and I had?
The first day.
It was like that with Barklow and I. Like, we were on a lot of sheep. Just that dude, you might want to write this down. If they were giving away pussy, he'd be in jail. He has bad luck. Like, on top of sheep multiple times, wind would swirl at our back. The only time it swirled was right when we came out on top of them. And it was depressing. But as far as I have 2 stories. One, 23 or 4. Kind of like you were talking about, Rob. We went out, hung a right, thought we were going in a straight line, but we were kind of swerving right. Ended up going in basically a half moon. Then we go to, okay, we need to take a left to get to the truck, except we needed to take a right because we didn't know we'd fully done a half moon around where we were. It got to a point, this was when remote starters were first coming out. My buddy's hitting remote start over and over. We end up on a highway because for me, it's common sense at that point. It doesn't matter where the vehicle is. We're going to be stuck out overnight in a snowstorm. We just need to find warmth and some semblance of humanity to get us back. We hit a road and it looked like literally like a movie, where some chick's getting chased by. We're like, stop, and we wave the truck down and what's going on, fellas? We're like, we're lost. Like, oh yeah, where's your truck? And I'm like, if I knew where my truck was, I wouldn't be lost. I know where my truck is. So we're explaining to this dude where we parked, and he's like, oh, did you go through a gate? And I'm like, yeah, there was a gate, where there's an easement. Oh, hop in. He drove us right to the truck. I was literally so screwed up at that point. We were 13 miles from the vehicle by the time we got back. We didn't plan on getting more than 2.5 miles away. But again, we were just walking, thinking we were going the right way, thinking we'd hit it. And then we're like, well, we'll keep going. And then it got to a point where I'm like, we just need to find a road. Let's go downhill until we hit a road. We hit pavement, and I had no idea what road we were on. And we're like walking down the road, hoping to hit a house, a town, or a car to stop. When the car drove by, literally I stood in the middle of the road and waved, like, stop, whatever. He was super cool. But the other time, not totally lost, but with James, when he shot that, it was actually the largest mountain goat ever killed with a bow at the time. I think it's still 1 or 2 on Mount Baker. 17 miles is what we traveled through and where we're parked and where we're going.
Holy smokes. And
we call Ben and tell him, hey, we think we're going to end up on this highway. Can you meet us at like 4:30? Right. And I'm thinking we got anyway, we don't have plenty of time to get there. I have 2 minutes left on my sat phone. I call Ben, say, hey, pick us up on this highway at 4:30. We hit a gorge. We can't find a way to get down the gorge. We finally find a way. We about die sliding down. Then there's a river. No logs to cross. There's no way you're crossing this thing. We go a mile up the river and find a log to cross. Cross that. And you can appreciate this. Deadfall over the top of each other up a 45-degree slope. Like, cannot. Yeah. I mean, it got to a point I started puking up bile because I hadn't eaten anything and I was just overexerted. Like, I wasn't peeing. And I'm like, dude, at some point, James, we're going to have to just camp. And I said, let's give it 1 more hour of climbing. We're climbing at what seems like a fast rate, which is probably like 0.11 miles per hour up this deadfall. And I can hear a car. I'm like, dude, we got to be close to the highway. We get to the highway and our time hacks are wet. 6:30, right? 2 hours late. We hit the highway and I'm like, dude, I'm looking at the map. We're 23 miles from anything remotely looking like civilization. We are effed. We're in trouble. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, well, we can stay here. I don't have any food, or we could just start hiking out. I'll be damned. Here comes Ben. Giant. He had this giant. Ben has nothing but expensive vehicles. Driving up the road. Hey, guys. And I'm like, you kept driving? He's like, oh, I've just been driving up down the road all night. This is one of the reasons I'm very.
That's a good friend.
I'm like, dude, you got any food? He's got like 8 Subway sandwiches, a pizza, and like literally a 12-pack of Gatorade. This is one of the reasons I helped Ben so much on other goat hunts was we would have been in 23 miles after like a 23-mile day. People, you don't respect how far 46 plus miles is in a day unless you've done it. And I'm literally like, dude, whatever you want, I owe you. Like for the rest of my life, I owe you. And because I knew how much trouble we were in. And I've pushed myself on 40 plus mile days before. You're not right for a couple weeks after days like that. Like literally we had to take a couple of days off and just recover after that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a good segue into just Eastern guys coming out west or guys from the South going out west or whatever. It's pretty easy to get big eyes looking at a map. And you've got to really pace yourself or you will screw yourself up. I mean, I remember the first time hiking around up above tree line, we did like 9 miles in a day. And I'm talking like walking 20 yards and stopping to take a break kind of day. And
you stop the glass. You stop in a glass. It's not taking a break. You're just glassing.
Man, I'm not joking when I say walk 20 yards and stop to take a break. Like it was me and Cameron and me and him, I feel like are both in pretty damn good shape. And I mean, we killed ourselves the first day trying to get back into scout where we wanted to scout. And I mean, we were worthless the next 2 days. We couldn't do anything. And, it's now after that experience, I don't have quite as big eyes as I once did. And I try and pace myself. And, I do okay for 7, 8, 9 days now because I know if I push myself too hard in the first day or two, I'm going to be, you're pretty much laid up the rest of the hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. You're running on borrowed time.
I got to throw another lost story in. Aaron, you've been down to St. Joe, right? Down to St. Joe country. We used to hit it hard down there. It's a crap show now. I've never been down there. I haven't been down there in 10 years because everybody goes down there now. But we used to go down there in late season, and there'd be 6 or 8 or 10 guys, and we would hit it frickin' hard. 2 of us take off. The one guy, he's never killed an elk. He was some kind of native. He was from Alaska. He was a native from Alaska, and you couldn't have chiseled anybody out of like clay to be, more of an Adonis than this guy. He's like 6'2", he's just ripped, maybe 6'1", just ripped. So we take off. He's like, hey, I want to kill an elk, like, can I go with you? I'm like, sure. So we take off out of the North Fork. No, excuse me. We take off out of the St. Joe, and we have a plan. We're going to come up and hit this ridge. The snow is like incredibly deep. We didn't have snowshoes. We're running into bulls. I mean, the elk were there. We go by noontime. This is in December. So, the days are short. By noontime, we hit the ridge and exhausted. He couldn't break trail. I mean, he looked good, but he didn't have shit, So I'm breaking trail all day long. We get up on this ridge and we decide like we got to cross this draw and get over on this other ridge, because we're still tracking this bull we saw. I ran right smack dab nose to nose into a bull. We get on this other ridge. Now it's like 3:00, 3:30 in the afternoon. It's cold, freaking pushing snow all day long. We get on this ridge and the sun's starting to set at like 4:00 over there. And I look down this canyon and my heart just drops because as far as I see, I'm supposed to be able to drop off this ridge and hit the North Fork of the St. Joe, right? So we start in the St. Joe. I'm supposed to drop off this ridge and hit the North Fork. But I look down, and as far as I can see, I'm looking like as far as I can see is finger ridges just coming in. This drainage appears to me to be 15 miles long. My heart just drops. I'm like, oh my God, how the hell did we get here? I'm like devastated. This guy's panicking. And I'm like, dude, we got to keep going. I'm like, this got to be here. He says to me, I kid you not, I know how to build an igloo. We can stay here. I said, as long as it's daylight, I'm walking. I am not building an igloo. We are going back and forth. Again, this guy can't break trail. It's been, 7 a.m. to, it's 4 p.m. now. I am freaking exhausted. Actually, I think he shot at an elk 3 times. I told him to stop. So it's been a long day. And as it's getting dark, I bail off the last fingerage. What I was seeing was I was on a tributary that lined up with the main St. Joe. So I wasn't seeing the North Fork of the St. Joe. I was looking down to like freaking Washington.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was so exhausted. We hit that creek and I just, that was an epic day. That was back when I could do that.
With all this being said, Aaron, you've got some land nav courses and stuff that you're doing. Kind of plug all of that. If people, I know I would love to try and make it to Corbin's if I can. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to or not, but I'm gonna try and make it out there if I can. But no, just you did a podcast with Fieldcraft Survival here recently, correct?
Yeah, with Mike Glover.
Yeah, so you're gonna do some classes and stuff coming up, aren't you?
Yeah, there's one on the books in Iowa, but we haven't finalized it. I'm doing one at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear. And I can't remember the dates. I'll get them posted up. I'm doing one at Corbin's in, I think, what is that, May? When is that? May 12th and 13th or something?
I think so, yeah. It's in Seminole, Texas. So anybody down here, I would be willing to bet if you're a hunter from down here, you're probably not unless you're a military guy, you're probably not super savvy in land nav, much like myself. So look into that. I don't know how many spots are left available, but I'm definitely going to try and make it out there.
Three left, 3 spots is what they told me. I think they had 40 booked, room for 40. I think there's 3 left. What we're going to cover from top to bottom is one day is going to be land nav. One day is going to be basically gear, fitting a pack, loading a pack, gear, setting up a bow, all that kind of crap. And then another day is going to be glassing techniques, stalking, all the normal crap. So basically 3 days. And in one day you can't cover, everything you need to know about land nav, but it'll definitely get your feet wet or whatever. When you're talking about, the bullet points of a map, meaning a declination diagram, contour interval, crap like that. UTM, the basic principles of reading a UTM grid, handrails, catching features, pace count, everything that's important. And that, again, it'll be a 3-day course. I'm not sure he's charging money for it. I'm not sure what it costs, but I can tell you it'll be worth it if you're looking to come out west, just because, again, I've screwed up so much in the last, 30 years of hunting. I've got a fairly decent handle on at least not how to die and how to kill something at the same time. We're going to go over taking care of meat in the field, breaking down an animal, what to do. Because a lot of people get paranoid over that, kind of your parameters of what you can get away with, how many days you can keep meat fresh in the field, crap like that. We're doing one at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear as well. That's also a shooting clinic with Tom Klum. So we'll do land nav and backpack hunting, crap like that, and then a shooting clinic on Sunday. And then I'm trying to coordinate one in Iowa. The grand scheme of things is partnering with Fieldcraft is we're going to have a lot more in-depth courses later on, meaning on the ground, like what I did in the military where you get dropped off in a Black Hawk. There's a sign where you get dropped off. It's got 2 different grid coordinates. One of them is where you're at, one's where you're going. When you get to that next grid coordinate, whether that be 5 to 1,200 meters apart, that sign will have the grid coordinate of where you're at to confirm you went to the right one, and then another grid coordinate, which is your next point. It's like a star course, basically. My main goal with this, and I get a kick out of it, I not to get on the subject of that article that the Meat Eater just wrote as far as hunter recruitment, which is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
I got to read that. Everybody's talking about it. I haven't read it yet.
I don't know if he just did it to get traction or what, but the thing is,
clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait or whatever. I'd like to smack the dude in the forehead, but if we gain no more hunters than we have right now, to just educate the ones that we have to make sure they have a more enjoyable hunt. Nobody gets in trouble, no meat's wasted. Maybe you can push yourself a little bit farther, because the end goal for anyone, I feel, is there's no mountain too high, no task too difficult. No matter where you show up, you're ready to roll. Meaning, you get invited on a hunt in Colorado or you get invited on a hunt in British Columbia. You're able to show up with a good grasp of what gear you need and hit the ground running without being basically scared to death to, and I forget, I've done this long enough fear doesn't factored in as much as it maybe once was. And so a lot of guys are scared of the dark. Maybe they're not scared of the boogeyman, but they're scared to navigate in the dark, or they're scared to, because of physical fitness, or they're scared to go on a specific stalk because the deer's 2.5 miles away. It's to get you to a nutritional standpoint, a physical fitness standpoint, a fieldcraft standpoint, meaning land nav and everything else. And then gear, what gear you need and why and when it changes. Where I hunt up, by Rob, my gear's totally different than where I hunt, down by me, because I'm dealing with altitude. I'm not dealing with godforsaken rainforest and rain, and how to kind of assess and pick through, on each hunt or whatever.
And now is that's an overview of that Corbin course you're going to do? I mean, that's extensive. I had no idea it was that extensive.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, man, it's and not to hump your leg too much, but like that stuff that puts you going to a course like that with a guy like you, puts you light years ahead of where you would be without something like that. And, I know there's a lot of people who try to help people, but you've put out so much information over the last 3, 4, 5 years since I've been following along with you. It's been a game changer for me specifically. And, I know I speak for a lot of people that, it is a daunting thing whenever you're first thinking about going out west and going on a mountain hunt, DIY public land or whatever. It seems like a very steep hill to climb. And, you make it a lot easier. And that's not to say that it's easy or anything like that, and there's not still stuff to learn. It makes the learning curve a lot less steep, and man, it's a game changer for people. It really is. And a lot of the crap you do, from the Q&As to everything else, that's content that's free of charge. You go out of your way to give it to people. And I personally can't thank you enough for doing things like that. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think even as simple as a packing list. I don't have a packing list anymore, because would be literally like me writing down what I'm going to take to work every day. I'm in the field enough. I know what I need, and I don't mess around with them. But I'll have some of the guys say, what's your pack weight for a 7-day hunt? And I'm like, 55, 60 pounds, depending upon camera gear and optics, whatever. Man, I'm at 72. I'm like, mother of Christ, what do you got in that backpack? Your wife, like, give it to me. What do you got? Okay, I've got 5 sets of pants. Okay, well, you slim that back down to the set you walk in on, because that's all you're bringing. What else you got? I got 3 isobutane canisters. Like, you cooking for the Ethiopians? Like, get rid of 2 of them, right? I can break that down to where you're not overloaded, going in. And then caloric intake. Okay, what do you eat every day normally? Okay, let's break that down. Now we're going to go over your macros, what you need as far as fats and carbs and what, save money potentially, so you're not buying nothing but Mountain House, where I don't know if you guys ever noticed, you eat MREs, your poop's green. If you eat Mountain House, your poop's red. Just happens, doesn't matter. Maybe where I can make your poop brown again, so you're not eating nothing but Mountain House. There's a lot to it.
Dude, that's a t-shirt right there. Aron made my poop brown again.
The food chart.
The food chart.
Rob gives me crap about being arrogant or overconfident all the time, and it's just my nature. I don't mean to be that way, but when you've hunted as many places I've gotten to, and again, I don't even, cast a shadow compared to some of my buddies, but I've been lucky enough that I've gotten to hunt a lot of different areas, which means I've gotten to screw up a lot. And the more you screw up, the more you learn. And I'm just trying to cut that down for people so they have a more enjoyable time. Now, don't get me wrong. Your first time is going to suck. And I don't care what kind of fairy dust I rub up your skirt. You're not going to be in good enough shape. You're probably going to pack too much crap. Maybe you won't pack enough crap. You're going to have no idea what to do when you see an animal. In the best case scenario, you might see the ass of an elk running away, and you're going to consider that a victory. My job is hopefully to shorten that down to where that elk at least turns broadside for a second so you can say you had one in front of you. And this isn't me making fun of anyone. The first time I ever heard an elk bugle in Colorado was like this it was like the first time you have sex. Something happened, you can't really remember, and it was over as quick as it started. But it was a story to tell later. That was the first time I heard an elk bugle. I flew down into this elk. I didn't check the wind. He's screaming. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm approaching too fast. At no time was there any thought process broke down into the scenario. And then he runs away, and I have a story to tell.
Got
Not
close.
too much different. Have sex.
I got close.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and I mean, I just wanted to well, both of us, I think, get accused of being Snyder leg humpers a time or two. But you really do. I mean, I think we both have a lot of respect for you because you go out of your way to
I don't
help
respect
people.
him.
You got at least a bit, pull shit on that.
Do what?
No, I was giving Rob crap. I was more back here with Rob's bow than he was. I do want to mention.
Somebody actually teed that up on that chipmunk picture today.
Oh, did
Oh, he must have just stood up so we can't see his legs.
somebody called me, so I clicked it off. No, I again, and I am extremely, confident, but again, it wasn't always so. It's weird because when you show up to a place for the first time, well, Rob, you in Texas, was that what you thought it would be?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just different. And so what you want to do is be able to have some semblance of common sense when you show up, meaning you may not know the terrain, but you've got the gear you need. You don't have too much. You don't have too little. You've got the dedication, desire, and the fitness, and just hope for the best after that carries you through, which you guys showed up with. I mean, you're from down there, Blake, but I mean, as far as you just hope that you're fit enough, you know enough about animal behavior, you've got the right gear, and what your failures or your weaknesses are, you will learn by the end of the trip. I get to hunt a lot, and so I have lots of failures that I get to pick up on quicker than others because I do get to hunt quite a bit. I just don't talk about it. No.
Yeah, no, here's a Google Earth pro tip for you Southerners and Easterners. Just because the road looks like it gets close to the top, the Google Earth, you can check the elevation of the road and you can check the elevation of where you're going. And just because it looks really close on the map doesn't mean that it's not going to be a kick in the nuts. So like that first trip we went out there, I was like, man, this road gets us, right up around tree line, just take that road up there. We'll hop, skip, and a jump, and, we'll be where we want to go. No problem.
Yeah.
And I lacked the fortitude or common sense to, I checked the elevation at the road when we got there, and it's like, I don't know, 11,000 or 10,800 or something like that. Well, the first peak that we wanted to climb to get to where we're going is like, 12,600.
Oh.
And it doesn't look like that on the map or on Google Earth. It just looks like a little mound, like an ant mound. And we get there and we're like, holy shit, guys, this is going to suck. And so, yeah, if you're check your elevations and stuff on Google Earth. And I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Don't let your eyes get bigger than what your lungs are capable of.
No, Aaron's got it right. Like he's dialed in on his gear. He's an awesome, teacher, motivator, and all that. But you take all of that, and if you just go with the idea you're going to have fun, and that you're not going to, like kill the monster buck, the monster bull, you might, but just go with an attitude like this is going to be fun. Man, you're winning right then. That's what I bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Man,
No, it's for me, it's about just having a different experience than what I'm used to. I'm used to sitting in a tree stand and having awesome whitetail hunting. And that's what's cool for me is just being in a different atmosphere, chasing different animals, learning as you go. And I mean, that's the fun part of the whole thing, right?
yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think that, bringing up, let's say this brown bear hunt up, like with what Rob's talking about, I think some people think probably I've been on a lot more guided hunts than I have been because I've my, really good friends with guides. But the reality is I went on one guided brown bear hunt and a couple in Alberta. Overall, I have, because that people ask me, hey, what's a good guide for what, whatever unit or in, whatever state or whatever animal. Well, the only reason I'm talking about this with the brown bear hunt, the guy's talking to me, and what Rob just said is exactly what I told the guy. I said, look, man, I'm looking for an amazing adventure. I take a bunch of photos. I just want some opportunities. And that's the best we can hope for. If you can put me on a few opportunities and I screw them up, that's on me. I just want the chance to be able to stalk, get sub 20 yards from a brown bear and try to get a shot at it. And I said, I'm not a guy looking for a 10-footer or a 9-footer. I don't want to shoot a cub by any means, but, a 6-year-old or older bear, I'm more than happy with. And I'm not the guy like, you put me in front of 5 bears that are 8 foot. That means I've probably stalked all 5 of them. Like, I'm not just, and when people are like, hey, when I come out west, what should I be looking for? Like a 300-inch bull. And I'm like, shoot the cow, the first cow that walks in front of you. Like, because you're part of that experience. And, it kind of throwing this up to you guys, part of the experience is also the pack out. And if you're bow hiking, you're not receiving the full experience. Not to say you have to kill something, but part of it is the grueling pack out, whether that be a cow or a raghorn. And your first time out, of course, in Colorado, you can't do it, but I mean, unless you draw a tag, but there's nothing wrong with a spike. There's nothing wrong with a cow. I mean, you're just out there to have fun and learn. And believe me, what you learned if you went on a trip and didn't kill anything compared to what you learned if you shoot a cow. Well, at this point, you're going to learn to break it down. You're going to learn what to do as far as hanging the animal up, what you can pack out, what you can handle, how you broke it down. You're going to learn all that stuff. You're going to learn, well, if you're a pussy or not, you're going to learn that too from the hike out. So that's part of it. And so don't get too wrapped up in inches, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, the experience is what you make of it. And you don't have to shoot a giant animal to have a good one. It certainly is a cherry on top. There's no doubt about that. If you stumble into a big bull and get a kill, that's great, or big buck or whatever it is. But I mean, that goes back to that first high country hunt that I went on. First day I passed up an opportunity on that same deer and told Cameron, I was like, man, tear it up, go after it. And as I'm watching him stalk in on this buck, I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that. Because we flipped a quarter to see who was going to go first, and I won. And anyway, so it was a 3-year-old buck, and I was like, it's the first freaking day in here. We've seen a lot of deer. Just, you go ahead. And he's beating feet over there, and I'm watching this deer. I'm watching his antler tips sticking up out of the willows, and I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. So the next day, I mean, I went in and killed him or whatever. But I mean, and I wouldn't change that whole experience for anything in the world. And if had I been snooty and holding out for a 160 buck or whatever, I wouldn't have got the same experience more than likely. And I mean, it was valuable for me because that was my first backpack hunt, pretty much. First time packing out an animal for the most part. A long ways anyway, but what'd you learn?
I mean, a lot of things from sleep systems to go ahead.
No, what'd you learn about your shelter? I think I warned you.
Yeah, you did. I packed in a Hilleberg Acto and thought that I was going to go super Spartan because of a guy that I used to talk to on a regular basis is weight weenie or ounce counter or whatever you want to call it. So I took an Acto without the liner in it. And don't fucking do that, because if you do, you're going to get rained on every night. And yeah, so no, now I pack a Hilleberg Nyack, which is a lot heavier with the liner, and I have plenty of room in there for activities. And
Activities.
I mean,
activities?
Well, in that Acto. So while we're on this, and I know this podcast has already probably been too long, but while we're on this, I spent 7 hours one day in that little solo Acto, solo man tent or one man tent, and hail, wind, like literally holding on to the inside of the tent, like just praying, like if this thing goes, I'm screwed. And yeah, I didn't like that. Like I literally laid in a coffin for 7 hours, hoping to God that nothing bad was going to happen to me. And so after that, I was like, I'm going to pack a little bit bigger shelter. Even if it means it's another 1.5 pounds heavier, I'm going to pack a little bit bigger shelter. That way I've got room to sit in there and weather a storm if I get caught out in a storm. And, just little things like that. I mean, I've still got a lot of stuff I need to learn, but I mean, I wouldn't change any of it for anything in the world. I mean, it's incredible, man. It really is. The whole experience was incredible. We chased a little bit of elk while we were there. It was awesome.
The moral of the story is, how I knew you shouldn't do that?
Because you've done it?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was the fatter version of you, sitting in the thing, raining on me, and wind blew. This just nice mist would blow over everything I owned off the condensation, because that's what that inner liner's for. And so I know the guy that you're talking about, which gives the worst advice to people all the time, because you don't know your ultralight until you go a few times. And then you learn what potential downfalls go with being ultralight are. And if you're okay with that, then that's, you've made that choice. But as a first timer, not too many people love that Sierra mist flying on your face all night.
Well, and I mean, to say that, that guy had never hunted at 12,000 feet in Colorado. And I was listening to a guy who has not put himself in that situation repeatedly. Right. And I just got lucky or unlucky, however you want to call it, that literally the first day I backpacked into this area, high country, Colorado. I'm like, perfect. This ridge is 12.5. I'm going to glass this basin. I'm going to glass this basin on the other side, camping right here on this main ridge right here at 12.5. And storm blows in, and it was, I mean, I I don't get nervous about a lot. I was pretty nervous, and I spent a long time in that tent, and because of that, my gear list has changed, and I'm sure it'll change again. I'm sure there's going to be a trip where I pack a 5-pound tent in that, I wish I would have taken a 2-pound tent or whatever. But I mean, all this stuff, and I'm speaking from experience, all this stuff sounds super intimidating. With the information out there, like that Aron gives and stuff like that, you can get your stuff somewhat dialed in and then just go, man. Like, it's not near as intimidating as it seems. Just go. You're gonna formulate your own opinions through your own experiences from that point. And I've only had a couple to this point, but it's every trip I've been out west, I've learned a lot, from packing lists to stalking to breaking down animals. Because I mean, that's not something I talk about a whole lot. Breaking down animals, that's something I've not done very many times, to be 100% honest. Hunting private land, Texas, where I can get a Polaris Ranger within a few hundred yards of wherever I'm hunting. Usually I'm gutting it and dragging it, taking it to the processor. And for the most part, and I mean, just learning all of that, meat, carrots. I mean, but that's why I enjoy it so much. It's because it's something new to me. It's a challenge. I like to learn and be a student of whatever I'm doing. And maybe that's why I enjoy traditional archery so much. Something new for me.
Well, I think that, and as an example with what you're talking about, a guy in 18, I was actually sprawled out on a rock in my underwear trying to dry all my crap out and just basically chilling like a villain. And a dude walks up, and I'm white as a ghost to begin with, right? So I was like a beacon laying there, and I see a dude coming, and we're 9-10 miles in. And I was like, okay, at about 200 yards, I'm like, okay, this guy's coming over to talk to me. I need to throw some undies on and some clothes, all right? So I'm getting dressed.
No undies?
No, I had underwear on.
Damn.
He walks up, and it's like a little version of me, right? Follows everything I do. GPS, the whole nine. And I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? And I knew that he had just put in for this tag, got it. And I just happened to be there because he was like, dude, I read everything that you write. I listen, and I put in for this tag. And I'm like, holy shit, I cannot believe you ended up back in this same spot. I'm like, so what kicked off the idea that 9 to 10 miles in was a good idea, your first trip? And he's like, I've been training. And so we're sitting there, and he's like, did you see that buck over on that ridge? And I said, yeah, dude, I saw it. He's like, you going to go after it? And I said, man, it's not really the kind of buck I'm looking for. I said, it's only 3 years old. And I said, but he's very killable. And he's like, so do you walk over there? And I'm like, yeah, there's no helicopter taking you. He said, how far is it? And I said, tax, title, and license, about 2.25 miles from right here to get over the top of that thing. He's like, how long does that take you? And I was like, dude, I can average about 20 miles with what I got on my back with this terrain. So just figure an hour, you're going to be on top of it, and then you're going to have to figure it out. And I'm laying them out on, I said, generally what I do, man, is mark your most pronounced, tree, rock, or whatever above it. So, when you get over there, I said, anyway, I'm laying all this out, and his head's just sinking down. And I'm like, what is it, man? And he was like, what's the chance of the deer being there by the time I get there? And I'm like, dude, it's almost 2. He's probably going to get out of his bed around 2, stretch a little bit, eat. He's going to be close. I said, man, I'll flag you in. And he puts his head down again. He's like, I don't have it in me. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to die. I'm like, give it a whirl, right? Like, and this is what I'm talking about as far as if you look at it as fitness and fun. I'm like, so worst that happens when you get over there. I'm like, blows out. It's not there when you get there. You got some exercise in. You know what it took. So I'm trying to convince. Anyway, he doesn't go. Right? He doesn't go. He goes back to his tent. He goes home the next day. He texts me. He's like, dude, great meeting you. I got way more to learn. I had a great time. Next year, he texts me, I'm coming back in. I'm going to a different spot. This is the area I'm going. Are you going to be there? And I'm like, no, not going to be there. And I said, but I've scouted that. There's big deer in there. Good luck. Let me know if you get jammed up. I can ridge run it and get to you in an hour and a half if you're in trouble. He texts me opening morning, giant buck in basin, something. But at no time did he say he killed it, right? And I'm like, okay, dude. I said, good luck. I'm not going to mess with, I'm staying out of your Wheaties. He texted me a photo of it laying down. He's like, no, I killed it. And I was like, dude, it's a good buck. I mean, 165, 170 buck. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, I can't remember most of it, but I sort of kind of listened to what you said, and I ended up killing it, And I was like, okay, so I was going to get him on the podcast, but I haven't. The moral of the story is he learned so much from getting his ass whooped the first trip that his second trip resulted in a great 4.5, 5-year-old 165, 70-inch deer that he killed on opening day. He learned he was running on borrowed time the first time. He learned where to camp, and he learned his physical limitations and how to improve on those. And he was like, dude, I literally, he's like, you cannot learn everything. You can learn enough to get back there. You cannot learn everything without going. And I'm like, dude, you're right. And he said, the number one thing I learned is the physical fitness level I thought I was in wasn't enough. And then 2, you can't be scared. You got to be willing to go that extra mile, even if the animal blows out. And dude, of course, now he's another mule deer hunter I have to compete with, but it's amazing what he did, what he learned, and listening to that story is very informational for other people.
No, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that fires me up. I mean, it's just, I've gotten comfortable in my home little area here, doing what I do. And I mean, it's cool to hear people push themselves out of their comfort zone a little bit. And this relates to traditional archery too. If you're a compound guy listening in, you know, push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, try it out. And I mean, that's what I enjoy is getting out of my comfort zone and pushing myself and testing myself. And
well, you know, I'll just throw in there, not to continue to pile on here, but mental toughness is so much different than strength. You know, I had the kid out; he was fired up to hike, do a backpack cardio yesterday, and you know, I had a long talk with him, an hour, you know, climbing. Like, hey man, you know, you can go to the gym, you can work out, you can like be really freaking tough, but the guy that has it in his head that he doesn't give up, you will beat every freaking time. And when it comes to hunting, I mean, if you look at that and say, man, I can't make it. I mean, maybe it's legit. You can't make it. That's a good call. But if you're just not mentally tough, I mean,
well, Rob, talk about what you sent me the other day.
Refresh me. Oh, yeah. What was that?
If you talk about it, because I sent every leader I know, because it's the truest thing you can ever find.
Please do. I know what you're talking about, but I'm probably not going to be able to regurgitate it.
So if this is a scale, right, and you have, let's say over here, you have your, what kind of a person you are. Are you mentally tough? Are you an honorable person? Are you going to go the distance to help others? And up here, you have, let's say, physical ability or natural gifts. What most people want, obviously, is down in this corner, up in this corner. They want a high level of natural ability, and they want you to be a good, honest, honorable person. What people have found is people that have up here a high level of natural ability that does well in a working environment, as far as they are gifted with a lot of different things, but their moral compass is flawed. Nobody wants to deal with this guy because he ends up being a toxic leader or toxic in the field. What most people would prefer is a guy that has mediocre or average physical ability, natural gifts, but is a very honorable person that you would trust with your life, your wife, things of that nature. Without drifting too far off of this, if you've been handed your entire life everything, you're a natural athlete, but your parents are wealthy, you've never struggled, and you compare that to a dude that's had to work at everything he's ever had in his life. He's had to give it the most effort. He wasn't gifted with able to dunk a basketball or bench press 400 pounds, but the dude's just mentally tough. Those are the guys that I pick and most other people would pick, because when the chips are down, he's faced his whole life with the chips being down. There wasn't a day he didn't have the chips down. Like, that's all he's ever been faced. So when the chips are down in a hunt, and I'll just, leave this out of the military portion, meaning Frank is a prime example. It's snowing or raining. We're running out of food. The wind is blowing. We've got an animal to pack out. He's like, well, at least we have, kombucha in the truck. And he's happy, right? I mean, and Frank's physical enough. I'm not saying he's not, but Frank has not been handed anything his entire life. He's had to work for it. So he's always happy. But you take a dude, your trail breaker, the dude that's, shaped like a Greek god, after breaking trail in 3 feet of snow for 6 hours, you're going to find out if somebody's mentally tough or just physically gifted. There's a big difference.
No, and you hit it out of the park with that. That was an amazing link I sent. I came across there, and it was a great discussion. And I think at 14 years old, I think a lot of what Dad says goes in one ear and out the other. But when he gets to the top and he takes his pack off and his back is sweaty, that some of it must have sank in. And it's like, trying to instill in him that, hey man, you might be up against the best of the best, but if you physically don't stand there like you're crushing it, if your head is down and your shoulders are slumped, whether it's physically or mentally, that guy's going to beat you. If he feels like you look and you're standing tall, buddy, you got him. You got him right where you want him. I don't know how we got off down that rabbit hole.
I think, to go into it a little bit, deeper, the biggest thing is just not quitting, not giving up, and, staying well, not to sound tactical, staying in the fight, but I mean, staying with it. I have the gift of having the world's greatest short-term memory.
Yeah.
I'll just forget what happened before, right? I missed. I didn't even remember. I'll be damned. If you just focus on, like, again, saying not giving up is easy enough, but meaning you've had 4 blown stalks and it's starting to rain. And I mean, the crap level is just dropping down. The guy that can get inside of his tent, be happy he's warming up, cook up a meal, throw down a cookie and like, I'm ready to go. Today was a bad day, but tomorrow's going to be better, and hit it hard. That guy's generally going to be the one that wins the day, compared to a dude that maybe has had most of his life handed to him, because when that rain hits and you're, sleep deprivation and all that stuff, he's going to give up and hike out. And that's the guy you want to stay away from.
No, I don't know how we ran down this rabbit hole, but it was a good day yesterday of me trying to instill some of that in my kid yesterday. And I think it does play into bow hunting at some level.
Well, I think, though, that like with your kid or anybody listening in, and again, leaving me out of the equation, if you've trained harder and you've put yourself through the toughest conditions, and like what you're bringing your kid through now, you know what I mean? Not that you're beating the hell out of your kid on the side of the mountain, but you're pushing him. Yeah, well, it happens. And you've over time have built up this accumulation of experience and knowledge and wisdom that you should be confident in what you do, because that confidence will carry over. You don't want to be, so overly confident that you get yourself into trouble. But Rob, as you've seen with me, I'm constantly probably overconfident or overly positive. Like, whoa, we'll get to that. You know what I mean? I try to just keep going. I don't ever really struggle with it, because the bottom line is you're not at work. So it's only good things happening, right? You're not getting yelled at by your coworker or your asshole boss, and you're not going through gridlock traffic. You're pursuing a dream you've had your entire life of hunting, right? Or taking an animal. So, okay, you got to walk an extra 5 miles. It's better than being stuck in gridlock for 5 hours or even 35 minutes, right? And I always look at it that way of, well, I could be in the office, or I could be swinging a hammer, or I could be, I try to keep it as positive as I possibly can be, where a lot of times guys come out west, they hike in, they get their ass kicked from altitude or whatever, and their knee starts acting up, or they get trad shoulder, you name it, right? They're coming up with something. My wife was mad when I left. I better get home. A lot of that is made up. And if they just stayed positive the whole time, they wouldn't be coming home early. They might put a little extra effort into a stalk. I mean, the mindset is key.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I think wife being mad at you is probably one of the biggest excuses in the world. But I mean, I've been in a situation in Arizona where we chased deer around for like 7 days. We had 9 days allotted to be gone. We had 9 days to hunt. Well, after 7 days, we'd seen like 1 or 2 bucks that we were willing to go after, and went like 2 or 3 days without seeing much of anything. And I mean, all 3 of us pretty much talked our way into just going back home. And that drive home, I'm speaking from experience because I won't ever do it again. That drive home, cutting that hunt early, was the longest drive home I've ever had.
The cone of shame.
No, I mean, it is, because the only thing you're thinking about the drive home is, man, I had 2 more freaking days.
Yeah.
I had 2 more days. I could have just in it. This wasn't like a big, hike 5 miles a day hunt or anything like that, but it still was, you've got 2 more days that you could have maybe got an opportunity. And you talked yourself out of it because of any reason you can come up with in your head. I mean, there's a million of them if you look hard enough. And I won't ever, ever, ever do it again, because it was absolutely, I mean, I still think about it. If we had 2 more days to hunt, we could have found something in 2 days. We might have found a 190 buck had we hiked another 3 or 4 miles. I mean, it just, you never know. And if you go home, you won't ever find anything. You won't ever shoot anything. And and you're just giving up on yourself. And that was a lesson I learned, and I won't ever do it again, because I that whole drive home, that's all I could think about. And
usually about two leaving is when it kicks in, when you're like, man, should we turn around?
Yeah, no, like I said, we had 2 full days, and it drives me freaking crazy to think about it now. We had 2 full days to hunt. I had the vacation off. I had the whole thing, and we turned around and went back home. And, you know, I mean, I killed a bear out of the deal, but we weren't hunting bears. We were hunting deer, and it's drove me nuts since. And I think this podcast has been probably one of the best we've ever done, and we've kind of hit a little bit of everything.
Well, you know, I will say that there is a little bit of something in negativity. So like when you got a good hunting buddy and things suck and you're like, dude, this is sucktacular. You know, and you like revel in how bad it sucks.
Well, that's a big difference though, because I'm that guy. I make jokes about that all the time. Frank complain about anything. I'll be like, well, man, I really wish it would rain a little harder. Not, you know, just more comments. But man, what you were talking about, without me sounding like a total dick, which I have before, Blake called me at one point when he first got into shooting trad. And anyway, I won't go into the whole story, but I believe my response was, don't be a pussy and rub some dirt in your crotch, I think is what I told you.
No, but I mean, you can go into the whole story if you want. I'm not ashamed of it or anything like that, but that's what I needed to hear, because it was like, all right, you son of a gun. I'm fixed to show you, you know, I mean, it's just, and people are different. Everybody's different, but I mean, at the time, that's what I needed to hear. And, you know, this deer that's right over my left shoulder right here, it took me a year and a half to kill a mature whitetail on private land, on good private land in Texas with the Stickbow. And it just, you know, I needed that at the time.
Well, and the only reason I'm like that is because of the people I've surrounded myself with. Like, I've literally had the Lancasters message me and say, notice that you missed on social media. Don't call me back until you don't suck anymore. You're a horrible hunter. Prove me wrong. Well, that's kind of the people I surround myself with, because I'm like, same thing. You fat-headed motherfucker. I'll show you. And so I think at that time something happened, and I think Clay or Bart messaged me, we can be friends again. You don't suck anymore. I'll at least talk to you. And they're half serious about that. So, I mean, the thing is, some people need to hear different things. I had a pretty good grasp on what you probably needed to hear, because you're a very competitive person. Me saying, oh, it'll be okay, buddy. You know, it's more like, don't be a fucking pussy, you little bitch. You get out there and get it done. It worked, right? I mean, and some people probably would quit from hearing that. But I thought, well, for Blake, he's probably be like, you fat mother. I'm cussing way too much now. So
no, you're good.
Yeah. You know, you'd be like, all right, fat ass, I'm going to show you. And it worked. The thing is there's a tipping or a breaking point for everyone, whether it be, should I keep shooting a Stickbow or a compound? Should I backpack hunt? You know, I pick it, whatever. For me, it's always been the guy that says, dude, there's people killing for things we throw away every day. You're doing a hobby, something you chose to do, and you're complaining to me about it? Yeah, I'm over here swinging a hammer, dickhead. Yeah, cry me a river, right? So I've always been a guy that caters a little bit more to that type of motivational speaker. Other people are not, because I've given the same motivational speech I gave to Blake to a few other people, and it literally crushed their soul. And I'm like, might have been the wrong tactic for that guy. You know, but for Blake, it worked great.
No, and I mean, I still have my moments where I want to break that thing over my leg, but it's, you know, at this point, it's been long enough, and I've hunted enough with the thing that I've just come to terms with what my effective range is. I'm gonna miss sometimes. It's just gonna happen, and I've gotten a lot. That's probably one thing that I've gotten better at than almost anything else in the last year or two, is just being able to get over stuff like when I miss or whatever. It's something super important. You've said, Aaron, that you have a really short-term memory, and that's a big time asset for you. And I mean, there's no doubt. Well, Rob, not to pile this on, but you had hell with the javelinas in the Davis Mountains, and you got it out of your mind, and you freaking pinwheeled your sheep. I mean, pinwheeled it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
some ass recorded all of it too.
Well, it's not only that you recorded it, you put it on Instagram. No, it really is. I mean, I spent my whole life. I'm not good at anything. I'm not great. I'm not great at anything. I'm good at a few things. I'm not great at anything. I talk about mental toughness. That's always had to be my game. I had to be mentally tougher than anybody that I was competing against, because not athletic.
is it because you're small?
Well, you're a fighter. You got to be a fighter. You come from Massachusetts, man. It's everything.
There's no doubt that me and you both have little man syndrome.
Oh.
I'll call us both out on that shit right now.
No, it's not only that, but you come from New England, man. You got to be tough, and you got a name like Patudo. I mean, holy crap! You talk about stacking the deck.
I've never called you potato.
Oh, you're not the only. You're the only one that hasn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's important for people to to hear, because I mean, if you can't jump and you can't bench and you're not fast and you pick it, you can be tough, right? Nobody can take that away from you. You can be tougher than everyone else. You especially when it comes to hunting, you don't need a dunk of basketball to kill an animal. You need common sense and toughness, and that's a good way to look at it. Think of how many people. Well, I don't want to get into that. I know a lot of people that have bitched out on a backpack hunt real early that make all of us look like fat bastards.
Yeah.
That literally everybody that strives to look like, they just can't hack it in the mountains, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's their deal. They'll go do whatever they do. But to be a mountain hunter, you certainly don't have to look like a Greek god. You just need to have a semblance of physical fitness and be mentally tough.
Well, the guy that walked behind me for however many hours that was that day and missed an elk 3 times, I'll tell you what, he'd pick up the chicks in the bar way before I would.
What was that on Borat? Is this a magnet? Is that him?
Just write another timestamp down there, Rob.
I got a list of them tonight.
One thing that's been good for me, and not a whole bunch, but I've tried to surround myself with guys who are good at the things that I want to be good at. And like last year, my mule deer hunt, and I surrounded myself with guys who were very capable in the mountains. They're very tough. They know what they're doing, and that motivates you and shows you what it takes to be successful. If you surround yourself with the correct people, I mean, you can almost create some mental toughness, because you see what those guys are capable of, and you see what they expect of themselves, and it shows you what it takes. And I know we've been on here too long. We beat a lot of dead horses, but I mean, I
think you're right, though. Surrounding yourself with people that bring you up and not down is hugely important. And you always play to the level of your opponent, so to speak. But if you, surround yourself with people who are physically fit and mentally tough and have good woodsmanship, it's only there's nothing worse than hunting with a dude that's a Debbie Downer like Eeyore the whole week. You just want to shoot yourself in the fucking throat, because you're just the whole time you're like, why did I hunt with this guy? Where you hunt with one of the funniest things with Frank, because he wouldn't say shit if he had a mouthful of it, right? But occasionally he'll pipe up and like, man, it's a long ways down to get water. You want to flip a coin? Yeah, let's go together. You sure?
That's good stuff.
Yeah, he's just constantly positive. And the guy that's like, hey, I'll grab firewood. And, all right, man, I'll cut up the back strap. And it's a team effort when you're back there, and to have somebody that's constantly positive and uplifting. I've hunted. I mean, I won't do it anymore. People are like, how come you don't hunt with very many people? I'm like, because that'll be the next guy I kill, because I know he's not going to make it back there, right? You want to be surrounded by positive people that are constantly looking, their glass is constantly half full, not half empty. And I mean, I know right now, I'm not going to say names. The three of us, just off social media alone, I could pick 10 guys that will be epic failures in the backcountry. And Justin Metcalf, Smiling Justin.
Yeah, that dude's fired up, man.
Blew multiple stocks, shit-eating grin like he just got humped by the neighbor's dog. Hey, guys. I'm like, hey, how'd it go? Man, and he's telling this story. No dead animal, right? Nothing dead. As happy as a man as you could have. This is awesome. How far did you walk today? Probably 15 miles. Man, this is just so cool. And he was just smiling the whole time, where you get another guy's dicks in the dirt, heads down. And I mean, and Justin's a prime example. You didn't see that guy in a bad mood. Even when he missed, he was still happy.
I'd hunt with that guy any freaking day of the week.
Hey, wait a minute. Did he miss? He didn't take the shot.
Yeah, whatever it was, he didn't kill it. Maybe I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah.
But the moral of the story is he ran all over Hell's Half Acre from Mexico to Oklahoma and came back and was literally still smiling, just excited to be out there. That's the guy you want to hunt with. In comparison to another guy that he bitches about, oh, the wind was bad. Oh, I did this, or we should have done that, backseat quarterbacking, whatever, where literally Justin was just a shit-eating grin the whole time, just happy to be there. That's who you want to surround yourself with, not a negative Nancy. And I'm not out. It's in a good way, obviously. The dude's a stud.
Oh, yeah. No, and he ends up killing. But you run into that guiding a lot.
Oh, hold on. He missed because I found his arrow on the backside of Baracho Peak. And I'm like, whose arrow is this? I packed it out, and Scotty's like, oh, that was Justin's. So he missed at least once. It may have been in a javelina, but I found his arrow.
Gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, you run into that guiding. I mean, here we're going to continue this conversation, but Aaron, from your experience guiding, you run into these Debbie Downers. And, you're on a hunt, and you're the guide, and you got this guy that's negative for like 7 days walking behind you. And he's like, I'll never kill anything, or why didn't that work? You should have done this. And he's just like, dude, you're just killing me, man. We're hunting hard as we can. Like, add to this. Don't suck the life out of me.
No, you're right. And if anybody takes anything out of this, there's something positive at all times going on, even if you have to dig to find it. You can always find something, positive out of the outcome. Now, that positivity may just be a meal at the end of the day, and that you actually remembered to pump water early so you don't have to go get it when you get back to camp. But there's always something positive to find in any situation.
You're not at work.
What's that?
I said you're not at work.
Yeah, you're. Although I will say, people say a day in the field is better than a day at work. I've hit some days that were bad in the field. My job's pretty freaking cool. Like, I've hit days where I'm like, work would have been much better today. Like, I got Kill Cliff in the freezer and Black Rifle coffee and a bunch of peanut butter bars in the fridge. Yeah, I don't know. Rough life at work, and I can tell you I've had bad days. Where office would have been nicer.
That's a pretty good point. That time I was holding on to the inside of my tent, I probably would have rather been looking at a drilling rig in my heated pickup.
Oh, man, we probably ought to wrap this up.
I think so, man. It's man, I've had a good time. What are you fixing to pop off there, Mr. Patty?
Get it out, Chuckles.
Damn it. It was a good one. I lost it.
On that note, I need to stop drinking.
All right.
No kidding.
I gotta go.
I gotta get to bed.
I'm tired of being the adult of this empty quiver every go around.
My bad.
We're getting off the live stream. See you, fellas.
Rock on.
Later.
All
right. See you, Aaron.